Does it sometimes feel like you're playing life on hard mode, where you have to keep pushing yourself to get work done or to get a result? There's one simple idea in the first chapter of this book that will help you make massive progress with half the effort by essentially turning on easy mode. It's from a PhD psychologist, so let me walk you through the idea and how to implement it. His idea is very simple, but I'm going to have to warn you, because depending on your situation, you might make some drastic changes in your day-to-day life once you truly get it. So stick with me here, give me some time to properly explain it. Have you ever had a hobby or you picked up a skill that you've been practicing for a while, you worked really hard to get good at it, and then a friend of yours joins you, and from the very beginning, they do unreasonably well, and after only a couple of months, they beat you? How? Because they're playing that game on easy mode. And if you're thinking, well, it sounds like they just had a talent for it, but you can always develop the skills and just work harder. Correct. You can develop the skills, and that's the problem. Here's why. If you look at the people who are at the top of their field, you notice that at the core of what's made them successful is this skill that looks like something that comes easy to them. It's their default behavior. You can learn engineering, but someone like Elon Musk is a walking, talking, problem-solving computer. There are multiple stories where a team of his engineers run into a problem, they've tried a bunch of things, and to their surprise, he comes up with a solution on the spot that happens to work. You can learn to become funnier, but someone like Theo Von just thinks in unique, hilarious ways.
The first boat I ever got, it was coming up, and I thought it was like a poop in my body that it was going the wrong way. And I was like, oh my God, dude, one of my poops is lost.
It's just how his brain works. It's who he is.
I had a buddy who got so scared, he thought his whole body would grow into a wiener and like there would be nothing left of him, and then the wiener would grow and then it would go back and he would reform.
And you can learn to become more caring and compassionate, but when Mother Teresa sees a poor outcast who is sick with a highly contagious disease like leprosy or tuberculosis, her knee-jerk reaction is to give him a big old hug and a smooch and take care of them. This is what Gay Hendricks calls the zone of genius. A set of activities that draw on your innate gifts that feel effortless and engaging while also producing exponential results because you're better than everyone else at it. It's not just something that you've learned or developed, it's just who you are at your core. Your genetic disposition coupled with your early upbringing and how you developed as a child. So if you're currently spending most of your day doing tasks that don't really energize you, some of them even drain you, you having to push yourself, let's dig a little deeper here. And these zones of activity are usually not something flat like writing, public speaking, solving math problems. They're often very abstract and unique underneath the obvious surface, and they express themselves in thousands of ways. How different would your life look if you knew exactly what your specific unique zone of genius is, and you change your business or career in a way where that's the core activity you do? You have no competition because you progress way faster than everyone else. They don't even know how you make it look so easy. And the best part, it takes way less effort than whatever you're doing right now. And the funny thing is, the remaining 90% of this book are just about how to deal with the guilt that comes with it shouldn't be this easy. Because you're so used to playing in hard mode, it's just about how to not self-sabotage once you know what's possible. And if you think, okay, I get it, focus on your strengths, I already know that, cool. This kind of thinking is actually what gets you stuck in hard mode. There are 4 zones he describes, and if you think it's just about focusing on your strengths, you're probably in the worst one. We know about the zone of genius, but there's also the zone of incompetence. That's actually not the worst one, by the way. These are things that you suck at, it takes you hours while others do it in minutes, it's super draining. It's like Theo Von trying to be a lifeguard.
I remember I was a lifeguard and I got laid off a couple hours into the job or whatever for loitering.
The zone of competence is also not the worst one. It's activities that you can do reasonably well, but lots of other people can do it too. You don't mind doing it, it's a little boring, might be routine work, emails, whatever. The worst zone to be in is the zone of excellence. Things you're very good at. You've maybe built your career around it, you're rewarded, you're praised, applauded, paid for it. It's a strength of yours, a skill you've developed, and you can do this for years, but after a while, deep down you feel, this isn't it. It doesn't really make you feel energized and alive, and something is missing. It's the worst place to be in because it's a comfortable trap. And most people get stuck in the zone of excellence. The zone of incompetence, those things are easy not to do. You avoid them. The zone of competence, it's kind of boring, but the zone of excellence is pretty nice. It's a strength of yours, and you settle for good, never getting too extraordinary, unlocking your genius. And someone who's doing the same thing as you, but it's their zone of genius, will leave you in the dust. They're gonna outwork you because it feels easy to them, and they just get way more energy from doing it than not doing it. See, after I sold my first business for a big chunk of money, that one was very easy to sell because I hated it. It was zone of competence at best. I tried countless things to find my passion, and eventually I stumbled upon YouTube, and I loved it. For 3 years, I made these high-effort mini documentary videos where sometimes we would film for days or even weeks, then editing it for 2 weeks straight, and I became excellent at it. We got lots of views, but man, it was not energizing. Editing was draining even with a team. I hated technical camera stuff, and I just wanted to share more ideas, but with that process, we could only do one a month. I've met a lot of top creators on YouTube, and guess what? Based on what I'm experiencing, the best ones operate in their zone of genius. Jimmy loves playing YouTube like a sport where the scoreboard is views and he makes strategic decisions to make it happen. Someone like Ryan Trahan loves making these videos where he's awkward funny because that's just who he is in real life. And when I first met Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast, we were at a mastermind retreat with a dozen other people, and in conversations, he would literally ask you podcast interview questions about big ideas and he would quote things. And that's his default behavior. He also does 3 interviews every single week, which also takes a ton of networking, which I'm assuming he's great at as a former club promoter. And that may be his zone of genius. It may also just be his zone of excellence. I don't know. But the goal is to spend more of your time in the zone of genius, and secondly, your zone of excellence. But never let the zone of excellence stop you from your zone of genius. And that's why I quit making these big videos and took a break, as you know, to try some new things like podcasts, interviews, which were already way more fun and energizing. So short term, I took a big hit to reconnect with my zone of genius and figure out a process to spend more time there. So now that I've hyped up this idea so much and you're bought in, you're probably asking yourself, how do I find my zone of genius? All right, I'll tell you what worked for me. It's a simple but very eye-opening process. A zone of genius is not just a obvious surface level activity like writing or leadership or making videos, but it's something abstract and foundational beneath the surface. And the skill is usually just how it's expressed, right? So it's not just engineering, but it might be identifying bottlenecks and inefficiencies in a system and finding creative solutions. It's not just leadership, but it might be bringing people on the same page or resolving conflicts in group dynamics by enrolling people into seeing a different perspective. It's not just sitting down and making a video, but it might be communicating abstract ideas into simple terms that inspire action through storytelling. Hopefully what I'm doing here right now. The key thing is, it's a unique way in which your brain works. For example, a friend of mine is incredible at coming up with effective ways to emotionally communicate an idea to make it intriguing. So if I were to launch a product or a brand, I go to him. And when I ask him for ideas, what should I name this thing? He would close his eyes and feel his emotions. And his brain would go into a different realm to cook something up. And then he opens his eyes again and he comes up with a brand name or a tagline that just slaps. And he can use that unique genius for skills like branding, storytelling, marketing, which is what he does a lot of. Whereas marketing also has a lot of analytical pieces to it, right? Like conversion data, tracking software, etc. That's not his jam. You have something just like that. And if it's not already crystal clear to you what that thing is, let's get more practical on how to find it. And this might lead to an epiphany that changes your life. But the problem is, if you've been ignoring your zone of genius, you may have lost touch with it so much that you don't even know where to look anymore, right? So it's like having one rare flower in your garden and it hasn't been watered, so it's small and wilted, and it's covered by shrubs and plants and sometimes even weeds, the activities that you've been pouring into most instead. Now to find that flower so we can start pouring into it, we gotta look for some clues. One way is by asking yourself, what feels effortless to me that is hard for others. For example, whenever I play a new board game and a friend of mine explains the rules to me, by the end of it, once I get it, I'm like, why didn't you explain it this way? I had the same thing with teachers. When they would explain a new math concept, they would just suck at it. And once I got it, I knew how to explain it to someone way more easily and in a more entertaining way. So that gave me a really good hint. A different question would be, what does everyone else seem to weirdly suck at? Where you think it's so easy, why does everyone suck at it? Chances are, you just happen to be really unreasonably good at it. What work do I do that doesn't feel like work? Or what do other people get paid for that I would be willing to do for free? And then another way is by asking other people. And the more they know you, the better. And just ask them, what am I unreasonably good at? What do you come to me for help with? Which gives you what people instinctively trust you with. What do you think I underestimate about myself? What's something I do better than almost anyone you know? And specifically asking family or people who've known you since childhood is powerful because they knew you before the world filled your garden with weeds and other plants. So all these give us clues that at least point at our unique genius, or at the very least give us some valuable insights into who we might be or what we might be good at. The problem is, this can also be misleading. We can mislead ourselves because we're clouded by all these stories and who we've been up until this point and who we should be. And some people might not even know us at our core, right? And that makes finding our zone of genius very hard, where we sometimes don't even know what direction to look in. And so the second way of finding your zone of genius will give you a real strong indicator that's not logical, clouded by stories or judgments, but visceral, and it'll make it much more obvious. See, a key indicator that you're in your zone of genius is that it's not just effortless, but it actually gives you more energy. And it may still be challenging to get into the task, if it's writing or like just doing some challenging work. You may still have some resistance, but once you've completed it, then you feel energized. On the flip side, we all know of things that drain our energy, right? Those are activities in the zone of incompetence. Technical problems might be working with people if you're introverted, or organizing things if you're, a chaos genius. And then there's activities that are neutral. You don't mind doing them. They don't really energize you or drain you. So if you just want to find clear signs that something is closer to your zone of genius, just keep a journal with 3 columns: draining, neutral, and energizing activities. And throughout the day, you just fill it out after each activity that you do. Now, here's one of the most eye-opening realizations I've had many years ago when I went through this. You may find an activity that you find energizing, but you'll say it doesn't count. Because you may think, well, everyone likes that. That can't be my thing. And you'd be shocked how many people hate doing that thing. I always knew that I loved strategizing with people one-on-one. I'm the guy in my friend group that people come to when they have a challenge. When I open slots for subscribers to book a call with me, I can do 6 calls back to back without a break, and I feel so alive at the end. And I always thought, yeah, of course I like that. Who doesn't? But on the other hand, my entrepreneurial friends are stunned because they hate having to deliver a service. They just want to sell it. They want to hop on a sales call, get the bag, and not deal with fulfillment. And they don't know how anyone could like having to do the actual work, which is what they would call it, right? Whereas I don't really want to spend time selling it, I just want to do the thing. A friend of mine loves doing camera stuff and dealing with technical challenges. It's like playing Legos for him, but he's drained by having to sit down and speak to a camera, and he's surprised when I tell him that I wish I could just record and not have to deal with any camera stuff. I think he's a psychopath. Whatever you hate most, somebody else loves, and vice versa. So allow yourself to be surprised by what activities energize you, because others actually find them draining. And once you have that list, your goal is to simply spend as much time as possible as far right as possible. And lastly, how much would your career or business or life change if you get crystal clear on your zone of genius and you truly put it at the center of what you do every day? You can either get tempted to just get busy again, go back to your zone of excellence, go back to what you know, or now that you've learned all this and you see how impactful it would be, you can commit to finding your zone of genius while the idea is still fresh in your mind and your motivation is high. So I'll put together a simple worksheet that will walk you through how to actually implement this with additional resources in it, such as personality tests and other exercises I recommend that I decided not to put into this video because it would just overcomplicate it. So go check that out below. You can also listen to this podcast episode right here where we dive deeper into how to find your zone of genius, or you can just watch another video just like this one. See you in the next one. Stay driven.